Hello, business owners. How are you doing? This is Daryl, Guberman-CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. We've been open now as of August for 11 years, assisting companies in quality control, implementation of ISO certification and derivatives to the International Standards Organization, along with consulting in medical, aerospace, automotive, and other industries, special processes. So we were asked a lot of questions about what is the roots of the International Organization for Standards, ISO. What is the roots? How is it implemented? How is it enacted? How is it developed and formed? Not only are we going to give you a short synopsis of what we've discovered after research, but we're also going to talk about what ANSI and ANAB speak about. The American National Standards Institute, ANSI, who took over complete control over ANAB in 2018, the American National Crediting Board. And we're also going to talk about their term called voluntary consensus standards. So let's go first with the brief history about the International Organization for Standardization. It all began in 1933. A similar accreditation scheme was attempted by the National Recovery Administration, NRA, as indirectly part of President Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. The NRA was supposed to organize the stabilization and revival of the United States economy after the Great Depression of 1929 and was charged with supervising each sector of the economy, and it was to establish an industry-wide code setting standards for production, prices, and wages. These so-called codes had the force of law and were exempt from antitrust actions. However, smaller companies could not achieve or maintain these standards set forth by the National Recovery Act. Yes, they could not do it. The smaller companies could not do it. And because they could not do it, thousands of smaller companies were being taken over by their larger competitors whose executives ran the National Recovery Administration. In 1935, the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously declared that the NRA law was unconstitutional and disbanded it, ruling that it infringed the separation of powers under the United States Constitution. Large companies were using the NRA to drive smaller companies out of business that were unable to meet the NRA standards. In response, executives of these major corporations and former NRA leadership created an international association beyond the law outside the United States, whose compliance was voluntary. That organization is the International Organization for Standardization, or better known as ISO. ANAB's accreditation scheme, along with ANSI, is designed to shut out competition and force businesses into being so-called recognized by ANAB's partner company, the International Accreditation Forum. By the way, in 2015 through 2021, it was run by Zhao Jinwu, a communist Chinese national, who is also not only the chairman at the time of the IAF, but he was also chairman of the China National Accreditation Services, which certified the laboratory suspect release of COVID-19 laboratory in Wuhan, China. The next thing that we're going to take on is about voluntary consensus standards. What do some corrupted and greedy board members mean by their buzz phrase, voluntary consensus standards? Well, the first word they employ is voluntary. This means coming from one's own free will consent. This much is perfectly clear. To their witch's brew, they add consensus, how does consensus impact their twisted, deceitful concept? Here, with the word consensus, their intent begins to show. Consensus means general agreement. Consensus does not mean complete agreement. It can be thought of as if among a group of people that must go along with the decision, or perhaps all go along with the decision. But some of those who go along with it have misgivings, doubts, or mental reservations. If the act shows uniformity, it is not uniformity or complete agreement, but merely uniformity in yielding to the decision. Now we come to the point where the road, or actually the rubber hits the road. What is the nature and meaning of the word standard? Here we go. Hold on to your seat. A standard, as they mean it, is a rule set up and established by authority as a rule for the measure of quantity, weight, extent, value, or quality. What goes on here? All of a sudden, we are confronted by established by authority. Now, note this fact well. A standard can only be a standard for those who accept it. If you don't accept it, then it is not a standard for you. To say that it is established by authority as a rule is utterly to eliminate the notion of voluntary. It is established not by free choice or by reserved or hesitant agreement, but by established authority. Note well that they do not merely say authority, but established authority. Established authority is a pre-existing authority already established before any participants engage in a consensus. The concept of voluntary and the concept of authority are incompatible unless those who volunteer are willing to discard their free choice and instead submit to authority. So, we must logically conclude that the buzzwords voluntary consensus standard have nothing to do with voluntary participation or complete agreement and uniformity of choice by consensus. This twisted phrase means submission to established authority. What authority is that compels this complete submission? Only the leaders of some board of directors possess this authority. The buzzwords are merely a sham. I thank you so much. My telephone number is 203-556-1493. And this video was concerning the formulation of ISO, the International Organizations for Standard, how it was developed, designed, and packaged, and also about voluntary consensus standards. I thank you so much. Again, 203-556-1493. I look forward to hearing from you.